The topic we am going to deal with is budget and budgetary control. That is the last module which we have to study in this paper. One of the important objectives of cost accounting is cost control. What do you mean by cost control? For controlling the cost, there should be effective utilization of all resources. Wastage should be reduced, and as a result, you can reduce the cost of production. Cost control means you have to control the cost of manufacturing the product. How you can control this? How you can achieve this objective? For that, there should be effective utilization of all the resources, and there should be reduction of all wastages. There are different techniques for controlling the cost. Or cost control can be achieved through various techniques. The most important one of them are budgetary control and standard costing. These are different chapters, but these are two techniques used for attaining or for getting cost control. Before dealing with budgetary control, you should know what is a budget. I think everybody has got an idea about budget because every year our finance minister, both at the center and the state, they are presenting the budget. That is a financial budget presented by the finance ministers. Budget is used for planning and controlling the activities of the concern of the organization. Budget is a detailed plan of action for a future period. Budget means a detailed plan of action for a future period. Budget lays down what are the targets to be achieved during a specified period. How you can achieve the target during a specified period. Let us see a definition for budget. Budget is a financial and/or quantitative statement. It is prepared prior to a defined period of time of the policy to be pursued during that period for the purpose of attaining given objective. I shall split the definition into different parts and I shall explain it. Budget is a financial and/or quantitative data. What do you mean by financial or quantitative data? Budget can be presented in financial terms, in rupees, paisa, etc. It can be presented in quantitative terms also. It can also be presented in financial as well as quantitative terms. For example, you are preparing cash budget only in monetary terms. How much is the cash inflow? How much is the cash outflow in cash budget? But certain budgets you are preparing only in quantitative terms. For example, production budget. Production budget you are preparing only in quantitative terms. There are certain other budgets which you are preparing both in quantitative and financial and quantitative. For example, sales budget, then purchase budget. All these are prepared both in quantitative and financial terms. You are preparing this production budget, the sales budget, purchase budget, etc. So the first important point of this budget is it is a financial and or quantitative statement. Usually budget is prepared for a definite period. How long this budget shall be applicable? This finance budget presented by the ministers, that is presented for one financial year. But in a business concern, a budget may be prepared for fortnightly, for weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, annual budget, etc. In any way, that budget is prepared for a definite period of time. It is to be prepared in advance for the definite period. Suppose you are preparing a budget for April to June, that is for 3 months, April, May and June. That is to be prepared sufficiently early, either in March or in February. That is, budget is prepared in advance of the definite period. Now, next important point is, it lays down the policies to be pursued. What are the policies to be followed for attaining during that budget period? For example, suppose you are preparing a sales budget. How much is the selling price to be fixed during that period? How you can increase the sales? What are the strategies to be followed? That are the policies to be followed during that definite period, during the budget period. The ultimate aim of preparing a budget is to obtain or to achieve a given objective. There is an objective, and that objective is to be achieved. That is the purpose of preparing the budget. Then another important point is, budget is to be approved by the management before implementation. Budget is to be approved by the management before implementation. So these are the different features of so I shall repeat it once more. Budget is prepared in financial and or quantitative statement. It's a financial and or quantitative statement. That means it is prepared both in monetary terms as well as in quantity. It is prepared for a definite period of time. It is prepared in advance of the definite period. What are the policies to be followed during the budget period? The purpose of preparing the budget, that is to attain an objective. That is attainment of objective, that is the ultimate purpose of preparing the budget. Then it should be approved by the management before implementing that budget. These are the important points which we have to, these are important features of this budget. Then, what is budgetary control? A technique for controlling the activities of an organization with the help of the budget. A technique for controlling the activities of an organization. There is no meaning in preparing the budget unless this budgetary control technique is introduced. There is budgetary control involves comparison of actual performance with the budgeted performance. Now let us see. So budgetary control means technique of controlling the activities of a concern of an organization with the help of budgets. And how you can achieve this objective, you have to compare the actual performance with the budgeted performance. There's a definition given by ICMA. Let us see that definition. The establishment of budgets relating to the responsibilities of executives to the requirements of a policy, and continuous comparison of actual with budgeted results, either to secure by individual action the objective of that policy or to provide a basis for revision. I think you will have a clear idea only when I split that definition into certain parts. The first step in budgetary control is establishment of budgets. You have to establish budget for each of the functional area of an organization. In an organization, there are different functional areas. For example, purchase, sales, production, cash, labor welfare, personnel department. So you have to prepare a budget for each of the functional area of the organization. That is the first step in budgetary control. Preparing budget for each of the functional area. Second is measurement of actual performance of each functional area. Measurement of actual performance. Then you have to compare. The third step is comparison of actual performance with a budgeted performance. Then measuring the variance. Measuring the variance of between the actual performance and the budgeted performance. Then you have to analyze the reasons for this variance. Why there is difference. Then corrective actions have to be taken. Last is revision of budgets in accordance with the changed circumstances. So what are the steps, features of budgetary control? Establishment of budgets relating to each of the functional area of the organization. Then measurement of actual performance with the budgeted performance. Then measuring the actual performance from measuring the variance between the budget and the actual, then analyzing the variance, taking corrective actions and revising the budget if necessary. In budget and budgetary control, there are three terms which are very commonly used. One is budget, the other is budgeting, and the third one is budgetary control. Let us see those three terms one by one. Budget, you have seen, it's a financial and a quantitative plan or data relating to a future period. Financial or quantitative plan relating to a future period. That you know. What is budgeting? Budgeting is the process of preparing the budgets. Process of preparing the budget. That is what you call as budgeting. Budget is a statement of future course of action. It's a statement for the future course of action. Budgeting is the process of formulating budgets or preparing the budget. What is budgetary control? Budgetary control is the use of budget to control the activities of the concern of the organization. So I shall give you what is this budgetary. Budget means a financial or quantitative plan relating to a future period. Budgeting means process of preparing the budget. Budgetary control means use of budget to control the activities of the organization. These are the three terms which are commonly used in budget and budgetary control. Now, what are the objectives of Budgetary control. What are the objectives of budgetary control? All the management functions can be achieved through this budgetary control system. One is planning. Budget is a plan of action to be pursued during a definite period. There is a given objective. What are the actions to be laid down to achieve that objective? That is what we call as planning. Objectives of budgetary control, first one is planning. Planning means a plan of the policy to be pursued during the budget period. Next is coordination. Budgetary control system coordinates the activities of the various departments of an organization. For example, how much units are to be manufactured or produced? For that, production department has to prepare a production budget. When a production department prepares a production budget, they should coordinate with the sales department how much the sales that can be achieved. That means there should be coordination between various departments. Then purchase department, how many units of raw materials are to be manufactured? So there should be a discussion or coordination between the various departments. So that can also be achieved. Budgetary control coordinates the activities. Each department works in coordination with other departments. Third point is control. The main objective is control. The main objective of the budgetary control system is control. That is, how you can achieve this control? Control can be achieved by continuous comparison of actual performance with budgets. You have to compare the actual performance with the budget and take correction wherever necessary. Sometimes you may have to change the budget itself. Suppose you are preparing a budget which is not at all attainable. Then in that circumstance, you have to change the budget. You have to correct the budget itself. That is control purpose. Next is communication. The organizational goals and objectives of the organization, they are communicated to all employees. When each functional budget that specifies the objectives of each of the functional department. Then budgetary control helps in motivation. How it helps in motivation? There is a target established. Every employee has to achieve that target. Then budget motivates the employees to achieve the targets. When employees are involved in the preparation of budget, they themselves feel that it is their responsibility to achieve the target because they themselves are preparing the budget. Then they find that it is their duty to achieve the objective goals. Then there is delegation of authority and responsibility in budgetary control system because authority and responsibility is delegated to different levels of management in order to ensure the achievement of goals. In order to achieve the goals which are laid down in the budget, this authority and responsibility may be delegated to different levels of management. Then budgetary control system brings economy in all aspects of production, administration and selling expenses. Now we have to deal with certain terms in budgetary control system. We have to deal with them by advantages and disadvantages that we shall deal later. Before that, we have to deal with certain terms in budgetary control system. One is organization chart. What is organization chart? This organization chart shows the clear lines of authority and responsibility of each member of the organization. A chart which shows the authority and responsibility of each member of the organization, that is organization chart. That is a prerequisite, or that is essential for the budgetary control system. One-word questions are asked from this. What is organization chart? Chart which clearly shows the authority and responsibility of each of the member of the organization. Next is budget center. SEMA has defined budget center as a section of the organization for which separate budgets are prepared and control exercised. In an organization, there may be different sections. For example, production, sales, purchase, labor welfare, then cash. There are different sections. Budget center is a section of the department of an organization, and for each budget center you are preparing a budget. For example, sales department will prepare the sales budget. Then production department will prepare the production budget. Cash department, finance department will prepare the cash budget. That is budget center. So what is a budget center? A section of an organization for which separate budgets may be prepared and control exercised. Next is what is a budget committee? For preparation of budget, there should be a budget committee. In small concern, the budget is prepared by the budget officer or chief accountant. But in large concerns, there should be a budget committee. That budget committee consists of budget officer, then functional managers, usually this budget officer or the functional managers prepare the budget and they prepare it they submit it to the budget committee. The budget committee has to go through the screen this budget prepared by the budget officer or functional managers. The budget committee can make suggestions, they can make changes, they can make adjustments if needed. And then after receiving the functional budget from various departments, they will prepare a master budget which incorporates all functional budgets. So a budget, the most important function of the budget committee is to prepare the budget. In small concern, the budget is usually prepared by the chief accountant or budget officer. But in large concern, there will be a committee comprising chief executive, budget officer, then functional managers, etc. The budget is prepared by the functional managers. They present it to the budget committee. They verify the budget. They may make suggestions. They may make changes if needed. Now let us see what are the important functions of the budget committee. Budget committee has to provide information to departmental managers. Departmental managers has to prepare the budget. Sufficient or necessary information should be provided to the departmental managers. Then, general policies of the management, that is to be intimated to all concerned. Then, data submitting the budget, last data submitting the budget, that should also be informed by the budget committee. Then they have to receive the functional budget, review the functional budget, then suggest revision, approve the functional budget, then prepare the master budget. Last step is to compare the actual performance with the budget and make the corrective action. So I shall sum up the important functions. One is to provide information to departmental managers. Then to intimate all concerned the general policies of top management. Then to intimate the managers regarding the data submission of budgets. Then receiving the budget, review the budget, making revisions, approve the functional budgets, then prepare master budget, and to make comparison between actual performance and budgeted performance and take the corrective action if necessary. These are the important functions of the budget committee. Next is budget manual. SEMA has given definition for budget manual. A document which sets out the responsibilities of executives engaged in the routine of and the forms and the records required for budgetary control. Document which sets out the responsibilities of the persons engaged, the routine and forms and records required for budgetary control. So, budget manual is a document which defines the routine and procedure of preparation of budgets. A document which sets out the responsibilities of the persons, the document which defines the routine and the procedures involved in the preparation of budgets. The budget manual lays down the responsibilities and duties of the persons and also the forms and records to be used. എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് അതിനകത്തുള്ള ആളുകളുടെ duties and responsibilities of the persons involved and the forms and records used that will be mentioned in this. Now let us see what are the contents of the budget manual. Definition of different terms used in budgets, because it may not be familiar with the people who are preparing the budget. So you have to define what are the terms used in the budget. Then detailed organization chart, budget period, the period for which the budget is prepared, the responsibilities of various persons involved, in preparing the budget. Then forms and records to be used. Then date of submission of budgets. Then mentioning the method of accounting to be adopted. All these will be mentioned in the budget manual. Then budget period. Budget period means the period for which the budget is prepared. The period for which the budget is prepared. A budget is prepared for, there are three types of budget: long-term budget, medium-term budget, and short-term budget. The period for which the budget is prepared, that depends upon the purpose. Generally, budgets are prepared for 1 year. The period of the budget depends upon the nature of the business and the control aspect. For when you are preparing capital expenditure budget, you are preparing a long-term budget that is for 3 to 5 years. But from control point of view, short-term budget is always better than long-term budgets. And for taking corrective measures also, the short-term budget is better than long-term budget. But budget period means the period for which the budget is prepared. Now, budget or key factor. Key factor is also called as the limiting factor. It restricts or limits the volume of output. So when you prepare a budget, key factor or limiting factor should first be considered. Suppose raw material is in shortage. When you prepare a production budget, the shortage of raw material that is to be taken into account when you prepare the budget. Otherwise, there is no meaning in preparing a production budget without taking into account the key factor or limiting factor. Here the limiting factor is raw material shortage. Suppose skilled labor may be short in supply. When you prepare the production budget, that availability of skilled labor, that is to be taken into account. Then next we have to deal with the types of budgets. Types of budgets. Functional budgets. Then budgets can be classified into on the basis of its function, on the basis of flexibility and time. Time we have seen long-term budget, medium-term budget and short-term budget. On the basis of flexibility, budgets are classified into fixed budget and flexible budget. Now, we have to study in detail the functional budgets. The important functional budgets which we have to study, that is sales budget, production budget, then cash budget. We have to study this flexible budget also. First of all, let us, on the basis of function, each function, you are preparing a budget for each of the function. Let us see cash budget first. Cash budget is prepared to find out the estimated cash receipts and payments during the budget period. How much is the estimated? What are the different sources from which cash can be received? What are the various ways in which cash expenditure will be incurred during the period? For that purpose, you are preparing a cash budget. So, what are the various sources from which cash may be received? For example, cash sales, receipt from debtors, then miscellaneous incomes like dividend, rent, etc. received. Then there are different ways in which cash can be spent. For example, different expenditures incurred, payment to creditors, cash purchases, wages, salary, then capital expenditure incurred, etc. What is the purpose of, what are the advantages of preparing this cash budget? Cash budget is prepared to ensure that sufficient cash is available to meet the various expenditure. That's the most important purpose of preparing. Sufficient cash is always available to meet the expenditure. Then sufficient information can be given when there is shortage of cash. So you can make arrangement for shortage, cash shortage. Either some overdraft can be taken or loan can be taken. Then also, if you have surplus cash, that surplus cash can be invested for a short period somewhere else. Then it also helps the management to have a proper control of cash. These are the various purposes of. So I shall sum up about the functional budgets can be prepared on the basis of function, each of the function, that is functional budgets. Then on the basis of flexibility and on the basis of time. We have to work out problems from different budgets which are prepared on functional basis. First one which we are going to deal with, that is cash budget. Cash budget, also called as financial budget. This budget shows the expected receipts of cash and payments of cash during the budget period. Usually cash budget is prepared after preparing all functional budgets. In cash budget you are showing what are the different sources for receipt of cash, for receiving cash. Cash sales, receipt from debtors, then miscellaneous incomes, etc. Then different payments during the budget period. Cash purchases, payment to creditors, then comes salary, rent, dividend, etc. paid. This cash budget shows the closing balance and opening balance and closing balance of cash. It also discloses the shortage or deficit cash during the budget period. What are the advantages of preparing this cash budget? It ensures that sufficient cash is available to meet the various expenses. Suppose there is shortage of cash, you can arrange cash in advance. Suppose there is surplus cash, you can invest it somewhere. You can profitably invest somewhere else. And it also helps in arranging bank loan or overdraft whenever there is shortage also. Then management can ensure proper control over cash. These are considered to be some of the advantages of cash budget.